Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. It is Friday at about 9:47. So, hope everyone's having, or I should say, 8:47. It's a pretty nice morning so far. The weather is great. The weather was awesome yesterday. Really hot. It was surprisingly hot. A real summery day. And then last night, late on the later side, it rained pretty hard. And originally, the forecast for today was, as of a few days ago, was that it was supposed to rain all day today. But I don't know, knock on wood, it's pretty nice. I have another gig outside tonight, so I'm hoping it will stay like this because that will be nice. I think there's coverage for the bands and such, but is it like a tented stage? I think. But anyway, last night we played. We had a quantum show at this really super sweet bar in Camden, Maine called Lucky Betty's, and it was a blast. It was super fun. The music all night was great. There was a cool variety. There was three different groups. There it was kind of a strange billing because, and I kind of had a feeling it was going to be a real strange mix, I guess, to a degree, of variety. And again, my favorite thing to do in my free time is to go out and see music, like I've talked about many times. Like for example, I have a friend, my friend Tom, who is just an amazing drummer, super cool guy. He's playing a gig tonight in Camden, and they go till about I think 11 o'clock. And I might try to make it after because I think we're playing 2 hours, but it might be cutting it close. But I might try to go after if I can swing it and check out a set of his. And that's on a day that or a night that I'm technically working. So that's just kind of how I roll. I love to go out and support local live music. For me, it's the most important thing to do, and I just enjoy it as a fan. I get tons of inspiration and, to a degree, fuel for the things that I do and the crazy things that I do from that experience. It always, you know, keeps the fire going to keep it going, moving forward. It's just inspiring. And outside of the musician thing, it's also such a fun thing for me to do. I just love it. So it's been a while. I'm trying to think. It's probably about a week ago or so. I did go out to see live music, but I usually go. I go quite a bit. And the other amazing thing about here in Maine is that there are so many things happening all the time. Even this winter, I was blown away by how much activity there was. So, and when I have a day where it's where I don't have to work and it's off, or I have a night free, it's even easier to do that. But there's usually always lots of choices, so it's very, very cool. But anyway, we played a show last night. My great friend Andre Lescuse does these variety kind of shows, like a musical showcase where he'll have like three or four different groups play, and it was great. It was great. Andre played at first at 7 o'clock, and then this new artist I had never heard of, Kate Fiana, played, and she was really great. She had a cello player, and both sets by both artists it was all acoustic, And Andre's great. You know, he does all kinds of stuff, but he's really steeped in folk, but especially like country. He lived in Nashville for close to 20 years. He had his roots. His roots are in Maine, and he just recently moved back about a year ago to Maine. And you know, he's got that charisma, and he's got the power and the talent to make an impact to you know, our community, to have an impact. And that's the thing, when he's come back, when he moved back, you know, there was this like wave of energy that he brought. So he's just got that kind of personality, and his whole aura is really great for music and creativity. So it was a really great thing for, I think, not only to have a friend move back, but just for the community. He's got great energy, and he's got, you know, lots of gigs, but he puts together these shows that helps out other musicians. And Lucky Betty's is a super cool place. It used to be an old car garage, and they basically turned it into a bar. And they just basically put a bar inside, and they kept it as a garage. And it's got the doors, the whole thing. It's all intact, and it's super cool. Great atmosphere, and you know, they got a great full size bar inside. They do some food. You know, they have a big outdoor patio area where people can sit, and then inside. But I had been to these showcases a bunch of times before, and I played at one of them with the band I play in, Bone Broth, and it was super fun. And there's always tons of people there. And last night was kind of bananas. Like, there was so many people there. Well, the entire outside and then the entire inside was just packed. So they got, you know, a seriously good thing going there, and they don't do it. It's only like once a month or so that they do it. And this winter they didn't do any shows. They were closed for quite a while, but then they opened late winter or springtime, and they just started doing the music events. I believe the first one was in July last month, and then last night for the one in August, and I think they're doing one more. But very cool. And then after the second act, we played, and so you know what we do was very very different. But it was great, you know, and it took us a little while to get our bearings because the sound was a little funky at first, but once we got going, it felt really great, and we got a lot of great support from people. There was one guy who came up to us afterwards who really, really, really loved the music, and he was saying how he was so like surprised by when we came on, and he was saying because like he was digging all the music that was going on, and then when we started playing, he was just like, what's going on here? What, this is crazy, and he didn't expect there to be, you know, an electronic band to be on the bill. And he, you know, and he we chatted for quite a while afterwards, and he bought an album, and he is really steeped in the world of electronic music. So and his brother is a producer in that genre. So it was very cool, and you know, some other folks came up to us afterwards and were really into it. You know, it's always you know, when we're in that, and we've been in that situation lots of times where we've been on bills as Quantum, where we'll be sharing the bill with other groups that are pretty similar in style to what we're doing, or really close. But we've also been on bills with other bands of where it's you know, as different as as it can possibly be, and in those situations when that's happened at times where we have to follow, say, a group that might be really really popular, or they have all of their friends there, and it's totally ass different than what we're doing. And so when we got to follow that and try to keep people there, and to try to do a good show, it's sometimes extra nerve wracking because you're like, well, wait, this is like what we're doing is so opposite and so different in every way. You know, will these people not dig it, kind of thing, and run away. But at the same time, as a fan of going to see music, I love going to see stuff when, there is a lot of variety to the music, whether it's in someone's personal set of performance or if there's other bands on the bill. When there's a lot of variety, as a consumer, or as a fan of music, I prefer that when there is, very a real big variety of different things to check out. So, but it was great. It was super fun, and it was our first time there, and so we'll see. Maybe we'll get to do some more things there down the road. But it was super fun, and so the next few things that we have coming up, we're going to be doing a couple of shows at this new venue, Hilltop Tavern in Thomaston. So that will be interesting. We have a couple of shows coming up there, and there'll be some promotion, obviously, for that. So, and just recently, I came in contact with a whole bunch of other venues. So I'm looking to, you know, dive into that and try to get some things going. But, the summer is kind of winding down, I guess, to a degree, which is unfortunate. It is and it isn't, but um, it's been a great summer for Quantum. I try to keep us really active during the summer. You know, we I've been trying to do that a little bit more. We played a little bit more this winter than we normally do, and it always comes back to that's the way I feel like the best way that the band just kind of develops and evolves is through gigs. And so, I try to keep it more active. I'm trying to keep it more active and keep up the things of so it doesn't get totally dormant and where it just eventually becomes strictly a rehearsal band for like months on end, which has happened and can be really great because we can do, we get back to our rehearsal. Like we don't really rehearse during this season because one of the reasons is my job schedule was different, so we didn't really have the time. But luckily we've been playing a lot, so we're active and it feels like we still have that kind of momentum. But when things start slowing down, we'll get back to, and my schedule is going to be going back to normal pretty soon here. We'll be getting back to rehearsals, and we have a lot of material, and I've written a lot of new material this past year. So I look forward to that part of it because then we can work on all the new songs that we have, and so. But it's super fun, and I feel really fortunate to have this band. And also the other thing, I'm always trying to take on or try new venues, things that you know maybe at one point I didn't think we could probably have a show at. One example was one of the other places that we played at that I never thought we would really ever be able to have a gig at was Primo Restaurant in Thomaston or in Rockland. And Primo is probably the best restaurant in Maine. It's a world renowned place, but they started this music series there a couple of years ago on Sundays, and it's really great. It's super cool. I've been fortunate enough also to be playing there quite a bit this summer in the last couple of years, and I was able to get us a Quantum gig there, and that was a blast. And again, that was one of those things I never thought we would be playing because it I didn't think it would be a good fit or would be appropriate, but it was a blast and it was super fun and really good paying gig. So, and same thing with Lucky Betty's. It's a totally new venue that I know they don't have music at all that resembles what we do. So it's always nice to try to tackle some new venues and to take some chances. And I try to do that every year. So we've had quite a few shows around in that kind of thing. So it's it's always great. So moving forward, stay tuned for, and the next couple of shows are at this newer venue that just opened. So this will be a new kind of venture. So yeah, moving forward, and we're also, it's been a year. It's hard to believe it's been over a year since our last album came out, In Dreams I Saw Chapter 1. And when we recorded that, we recorded it as essentially a double album. And we have Chapter 1 that's been out for over a year, and Chapter 2 we recorded also, which is the part 2 of this of the recording. And that's all ready to go. And we were going to release it this year. I was like hoping to do it at one point. I started to kind of get a little bit anxious around it and excited. I think it's, I'm really proud of the album, of the albums. I think they're really great. We worked really hard on the records, and we sold quite a few of the first album, of the double album. I decided to, we decided to break it up and just put out the first one, and because it's a lot of material, it's all new music. I still consider it to be pretty new and fresh, and it really represents kind of where the band is right now. I think the band has more of a variety of sounds, and I think we've like incorporated more styles into our sound, especially jazz based things, and even more soundtrack oriented based influences, movie soundtracks. So I think there's more variety. So, but I wanted the time to be right to be able to release the second one, chapter 2. But you know, I just, and then I eventually just kind of let it go, and it is what it is, and reached a point where I'm perfectly fine without. I don't have any more thoughts of like, oh, we got to get this out, or I, it will happen when it happens, and so the opportunity just didn't really come up this year to do that this summer, and I also kind of, part of me also feels like it's probably too soon to do it right after. So we'll do it eventually, but it's nice that we have an album ready to go of all new material. So, and we have a bunch of other new material. So we have a lot of music. So when the time is right and we feel like, things are lined up and we got a good kind of thing set up, then we'll put out the second album. So, yeah, it's a great prospect, I feel, to have that ready. So again, sticking to the theme of certain of more recent videos I've been putting up, and I try to do it in general, but I try to always do videos that are trying to bring some variety to this channel, and to into what the channel's about and what I'm about. It's always about the love and passion for films, obviously. But today is going to be a little bit different show. It's going to be a pretty different show. It's all related because, again, I just, I always tie in music with a lot of these videos and my love of music and movies, and how films are, the biggest influence for me personally for when I create music for my band Quantum. So from top to bottom, everything, the aesthetics, the theatrical things that we try to incorporate live with using masks and things like that, and the obvious soundscape aspect from films, and just the pacing of the music, all those things. So I, bounce back and forth a lot with a lot of these videos. So, but today's show is going to be on social media and how bands promote themselves through social media. because I just recently had this really perplexing or kind of strange experience, or I should say, very surprising experience. So, so typically, like, you know, when I promote things for when it comes to Facebook and social media, I don't really ever use Facebook for personal things. I don't really. I have a personal account, obviously, but I don't use Facebook for you know spewing my personal beliefs or my opinions on politics or religion or how I'm feeling that day or just general things that I'm going through personally. I never usually use it for that. I usually just use it for promotion for gigs. That's really it. And then like when I come across a band or a movie, case in point with what I'm doing here for Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, my film pages that I run, I use it for these reviews and things dealing with that. I either so it's either I just use Facebook and social media for my film fanatic pages or the music events that I'm involved in. That's really it, and that's why I still have it, and I feel like in this day and age, it's probably the healthiest or the best way to promote your event. For myself and from what I see, other musicians in the music community, how they use social media, and it's something you need to. I find it's always evolving, it's always changing, technology is always moving forward, for good or bad, and you kind of have to, whether or not you like it or not, you kind of have to adapt to it. You kind of have to figure out new methods of how to adapt to things and see how, to a degree, how people's habits are and how they will be notified, or how you promote your things, like how just your general population is informed that there are events. So that's typically what the only thing that I do with Facebook and Instagram and whatnot. I don't really use it for anything else. And I typically, will post a video, or I'll post like an event page or a photo, where I'll tag where the event's going to be, and then I'll share it around, to a bunch of different places on Facebook, my friends list, and most of the people that are on my friends list, especially locally, are people that I actually know, that live in Maine, and I typically will tag people that I know personally in the post, and also I only do that with friends that I know live in Maine because they could actually come or do want to come. So I don't use it for. I don't tag people who I know are out of state, or far far away, or people I don't know so much. It's pretty much just an immediate contact list of friends that I do know, fellow musician friends, and then people who are acquaintances that I know pretty decent, on a decent friendly basis, or people that I'm generally friends with, and then basically put up this big post, and then you just share it around, and then you there's lots of different other pages on Facebook that you can share your content to, and all these things. And that's typically how I've done it, and I have been doing it for a long time. And then also, other people that I know who are musicians use those same methods. And for me, I always, because like again, like I am, my favorite thing to do is to go see live music. I that's one good thing is like how I stay up on new events that are coming up that I want to check out. I've That's how I stay up on any of that stuff. And especially if, if I have a friend or a band that I like that's in the area and I get tagged in the post, I immediately get notified and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like this is happening. This sounds great. Maybe I can make it or I can't make it. But it's basically how I stay in the know, even being even outside of say being a musician and just being a fan of music. So it's uh, it's great, or you get some people use email, like an email contact list or text lists. I have a good friend who sends out, he has a contact list and he uses, um, he doesn't really, he doesn't use Facebook, but he'll send out invites through text message. And you get like basically a little calendar of events of what he's got going on. But it's basically the same thing. It's essentially the same thing. So people have these different ways of promoting things, but it's all about putting it out there, and I think I love when I get tagged or I love when I get informed about different things coming on because it's easy to still in this day and age to miss an event, to to not know about something. But for the most part, one cool thing about social media is, you know, and there's a lot of things I don't like about Facebook. Plenty of things. But for me, as a fan of of checking out events, I find that's the most efficient way that I stay informed about what's happening. Especially when now this time of year, there's tons of different things going on all the time, and then I use the same methods to promote events that I'm involved in. But the other day, someone that I'm actually friends with, and I was actually in a band with, and I've done quite a few things with, including like gigs with this person, and also I've done recordings with him on a couple for a few different projects. So I know him very well, and he's a musician, a fellow musician who has lots of gigs and events that he's involved in, and he basically he was on Facebook the other day, and he basically reprimanded and said that he directed it towards the musicians in Maine, basically in our small little community, and he basically targeted all of us and said he does not want to be tagged or included in any post anymore because he feels it's intrusive, it's impersonal, and it leaves a bad taste in his mouth. And when he gets tagged in posts, it actually turns him off to where he won't come to the event at all because he finds it offensive and intrusive. And my first reaction to that, I was just like outraged, and my jaw kind of dropped, and I was just like, "What the fuck?" I was really flabbergasted, and I didn't understand like that perspective. And after some time went by, I thought, okay, well maybe the methods that people use, myself included, to promote things, maybe there is this thing of where it's too much, or it can be intrusive, or impersonal, or at this, and to a degree, you feel that person can feel like that information is being shoved down their throat, you know. And so, and so I tried to look at it from his perspective, and so, and his post about this has spawned this huge divide where other musicians and other people that I know chimed in and basically took his side and said that they despise when that happens, and that even to the degree of where they'll block somebody or unfriend them because apparently it's really, really offensive to tag your friends in events that you're promoting. And I do it all the time for shows, and as a fan of trying to support local artists and musicians, I love when it happens to me personally because, again, that's how I stay informed. So, back in the day, it was flyers. You put up flyers and took out ads in the newspaper, and you promoted things like that. That's still a thing, obviously, but social media is the main thing to promote events. So I was just dumbfounded by it, and then so I've had this whole like kind of varied thoughts around this whole situation, and have definitely have tried to look at it from different perspectives. And I feel like when a band is promoting their event, it's not a personal thing. I don't feel, essentially we're self-employed. We are our own business, and essentially I look at it as you're promoting what you're doing. You're promoting your events, and you're trying to keep people in the know and build an attraction, build an audience, and to inform people that, well, this is what I'm doing, and that's it. And to me, that's not personal. I don't feel like that's a personal thing or an issue or a personal venture. I feel like no, you're just promoting your business and the events around your business, and that's it. It's not, and obviously with Facebook, you can, if you don't want to get notified or you don't want to be friends with somebody, you can hit the notification button on your Facebook page so you don't get notified by anything. There's the option if you do get included on something in something that, you can just tell the person, "Oh, I'm not really into this, please don't keep tagging me." Or you could just block the person all in general and just be like, "Okay, I'm done." Because apparently you got really offended by something. So there's all kinds of ways, but the method that this individual, the way that he did it, I felt came across as just kind of vindictive and kind of like a big baby, and did it in a way where he is he came across as somebody who's just like angry and personally offended by what thousands of other musicians just do on a daily basis to just promote their work. And you could just have it done privately, take those steps, and just not be a part of it. But instead, it was aired as a personal thing. Suddenly, he turned something that is not personal into something very personal, and he was all apparently emotionally traumatized by being tagged in various posts. And then the other thing, there was this big, huge divide along this post where a lot of people were completely with him, and then there were a lot of other people that were really, you know, questioning it. Like, this is like kind of ridiculous, and this is kind of like trying to pick a fight or trying to bring about this, you know, shitty way of going about it, and like even one person commented saying, "Well, so much for the local music scene." And in a nutshell, that's how I feel when it comes to promotion of gigs. I just I still feel pretty dumbfounded as to that could provoke that kind of an emotional response. Because I don't, like, again, I don't look at it as a personal thing. I look at it as an impersonal thing, to where you're promoting your work, and that's really all it is. And if you don't want to be included, you can easily take those steps. But you don't, if you're not happy, or you don't feel you want to be included, you don't air it in a way of where it's really negative, and to where you're coming across as a big baby, and kind of to a degree attacking the other musicians in your community for going about promoting things this way. Um, and and my first reaction is, well, okay, we're one of the things I had said in response in the post was, you know, obviously you can become you're friends with people on Facebook you don't necessarily know. And again, I have done that. I have a lot of people who I'm technically friends with, but I don't really know them. And most of the people I'm friends with on Facebook I do know, but there are people I don't know, and I use that list as a way of expanding promotion for my ventures, with Film Fanatic and my music stuff. I look at it as the same way as if you're, if it's like a business, a regular business, like you could use example for like a place like Walgreens or some corporation. You're using your contact list or your presence on social media to just promote your business. Like, that's all it is. And if you don't want to be included on that list, there's all these steps you can take. But it's just about promotion and getting word out that this is happening. You at least know of this thing happening, or this event happening, whether you want to know, whether you are interested in it, whether it's your cup of tea or not. But that's the thing. It's strictly from a business, promotional standpoint, and that's all it is. So it's, you know, I was very, very surprised by that. And now, like, moving forward, when I promote things, I don't want to tag people now. I don't want to do it because apparently people are outraged and offended by it. And the other thing that came to mind was that we live in an age of where people are very, very opinionated. Everybody feels they're entitled to their their place to bitch and moan, and that everybody is a specialist in their respective field. Everybody is an authority. Everybody has this thing of where they everyone deserves to have an opinion. They're all special. They're all knowledgeable about what they're talking about. And also there's also an area of like sensitivity around things of where people get offended so quickly and easy, more than any other time in history. And there's so much bullshit around that, and I feel like, especially in the area of like where people's emotions come into play, of where they take things personal and people get offended more now than by anything and by everything. And I feel like, to a degree, this is an example of that, and it's just kind of like utterly ridiculous. But I honestly feel like occasionally that's happened to me, where, say, somebody I don't know at all, that lives even out of the country. I've had that happen where a couple of times where somebody I might have chatted with a few times online, and I know they have a band or some other project, and but I don't know them at all, really. And we just happen to be Facebook friends because we have a couple of mutual friends, and they are promoting something, and they tag me in this giant post. And it's been a couple of times of where I don't really want to be a part of that, and I'll delete it, or I'll like unfollow them, or I'll even message them. But I don't make a big kind of circus event out of it and call people out, or make try to turn it into a negative kind of shit show or come across as a baby. I'll just take those steps. But that's very, very, very rare for me to do that. I don't use that. That's happened maybe 2 or 3 times. Again, I like to try to stay informed and to be in the know as to what is happening in my community, because I want to support the local artists and I want to support the local musicians, in the event and all the events in the area, because I feel like that's, to me, that is the most important thing, and that is how I stay informed. So I've come to the conclusion that that's kind of where my head is at. But at the same time, moving forward promoting things, I'm probably not going to tag people because apparently it's offensive to people. Um, Very strange. I had this really strange situation a long time ago. I have, I mean, for what it's worth, I have quite a few years ago. I started my own. I always had a dream. One of the things that I always had a dream about was to start my own, somehow start my own like promotional company, or start my own record label, like a small little independent record label. I was there's one film, getting bringing it back to film. There's one artist and independent art, or an independent artist and film director, Larry Fenderson, who for me is a big personal kind of inspiration. He's kind of a hero for me. He's a he's really steeped in the world of horror. He's a really awesome horror director, and he's produced a lot of great horror films. He's out of New York. He's out of the independent world, but really great, really really great artist and a very inspirational figure. And he started he started his own independent film company called Glass Eye Pix, probably about 20 years ago. And their whole kind of agenda was to release, it was going to be his own work, but then also other directors in the horror genre. And he basically was started this company to promote and release these really low budget horror films. And he put out a bunch of his own films. He's directed some incredible movies. One of my favorite movies of his is Habit, which came out in the early '90s, which I think is one of the best vampire movies ever made. It's super awesome. He's directed a bunch of other movies, and he's produced a lot of other movies. One of probably the biggest name that he's worked with, and he's had this company for a long time, but probably the biggest name that he's worked with, who's emerged as like this really big uh, director right now, is Ty West. And Ty West recently did the um, that movie X last year, which is easily probably the best horror movie that's come out in quite a few years. And then he also did the sequel Pearl, which is technically the prequel. And then Maxine is coming out, which is the third one. It's a trilogy. But those movies are just incredible, and I think Ty West has emerged to be one of the best, if not the best, horror director right now. He came out of Larry Fenderson's camp, and his work, and he's worked with Glass Eye Pix for many years. That's his biggest probably claim to fame. And so I remember seeing lots of interviews with Larry Fenderson saying on how he put together this company, Glass Eye Pix, and how he developed it and where it came from and how he financed it, and doing this crazy bold venture with no help. And I remember seeing these interviews with him years ago, and it was always inspiring. And that really was what inspired me to start Berenice Records. And it's a small little label that I started, and primarily, we have like, you know, probably about 9 releases on the label, and it's a small little label. In comparison to other companies or other labels, it's kind of peanuts, but I think it's a real thing, and the way we're able to kind of maneuver it and the way we function is we have access to our own recording studio. We have a really nice recording studio. We have Mike, who plays bass in Quantum, is a really great recording engineer and producer and and sound guy. So we have access to this really nice recording studio, and where there's a physical location, but then it's also mobile, so we can take the recording setup and take it to other artists or wherever we need to go. And we've done that. We've done lots of recording over the years together. We've worked together numerous times, and we've released like all of our Quantum albums are on Berenice Records. And I did a couple other projects that were non-quantum related. We did a couple of like solo albums and put those out through Berenice Records. And we also worked at time. We've also worked with a few other artists. One other artist that we worked with was Darren Deicide. And most of the music that we've released has been, well, we've done where we've put music out, obviously, on digital platforms, and then also in physical uh, CD form. And we've also done vinyl. We've also pressed vinyl. We did that with Darren Deicide. And he was a touring artist that we used to play lots of gigs with. And he went to Europe. He's been to Europe a bunch of times. And so, we've done a lot of things for what it is. And for Quantum, that's what we use. And like the last album was released through Berenice Records. The other thing that's cool about it is we have this recording studio that is, totally independent and at our you know fingertips to use with no cost. But we can also manufacture the CDs, do all the artwork, and where it's all completely self-contained and there's no overhead, and we can essentially do all of those things for free. And I feel like the quality is good enough to put out, especially with Mike's expertise because he's had so much experience recording and working in studios. So I feel like he's an expert and knows how to do that. Um, but basically, we're able to do all of these things completely independent, and we're able to, so any profit that we make, some albums have sold really, really well, some have been okay, some, but mostly it's been pretty good. But any profit that we make as a band from the sales goes directly to us immediately. So that's the other motivating factor to do it. So it's been really cool. And again, it's small peanuts, but I feel like I also feel that it is a label, and I like how it's off the grid and it's totally independent, and that we can you know retain and control over what we're doing, completely from top to bottom. And there's no outside interference, and we can kind of just do what we want to do. And I feel really fortunate to have it. But one of the projects that we did, when we were working with another artist, we we had signed like kind of an agreement to do this record. And one of the things that I had to do for this record to come out was to promote things. And this artist had lots of connections at the time, or at least I thought. It wasn't really the case, but was somebody who had a lot of connections and had a lot of fans and had sold lots of records in the past. So my thing, and the other thing was when I started working with this one artist, suddenly my website, Barony's Records, really had exploded with traffic. People were really, really enthusiastic about buying. We were doing all this promotional thing, all this promotional work that were leading up to that was going to lead up to the release, and it was a big firestorm of work to try to promote this album. And one of the jobs that I was put in charge over that I had to do was to do the promotion to and then also do the pre-sales for this record that was coming out. And I was new to it. I had no experience uh, doing putting out a vinyl record before, and then also promoting things on that kind of scale and that level, because it was like kind of a big campaign. And so there were all kinds of people that were showing enthusiasm and showing support and saying that they were going to buy the album. And so I did tons and tons of promotion for it through social media and all kinds of channels to try to get sales going and to especially get the pre-sales going, because the album that was coming out was going to be set at a really low price before the actual launch. So I did all this work promoting it, and right up until when the event happened, this particular artist got in contact with me and said that there were a bunch of people that were annoyed that uh, I was notifying them about this record, and that I was overstepping my bounds as far as promotions, and that I was annoying people. And apparently I made people angry about this whole thing. And I was really taken back by that. And I just was like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm done. Okay, sorry if I offended people. I'm trying to promote this. And I geared all of the campaign towards people that were going out of their way, and they were proactively saying that they were going to buy the album. And and then when it came down to it, and then these folks were also sharing it with other people, and it started this wave of other folks that were chiming in through various social media platforms saying that they were going to order this album, and they were super excited, and they were sharing this. And some of those folks actually started to put in their orders for the pre-sale. But then when it came down to it, nobody bought the album. Basically, with all the work that I did and then what he did, the album was a disaster, and nobody bought the album. And I was so done with doing it. And at first I felt terrible that I offended people, if I offended people or overstretched my bounds as far as promotional things. And again, it was something that I didn't know. It was totally new territory for me. I was, learning as I go. But then I also was like, I kind of felt I had this bad taste in my mouth that, like, wow, all of these people, when it came down to it, were not supportive, and they were all uh, hypocrites, and nobody actually supported it. And that I started to feel that this whole thing on social media and this whole world was just made up of complete fabrication and just total bullshit, and people were just like jerking each other off. But when it came down to it, to actually support the artist, they could give a shit, and they didn't. And I had this really bad situation around it, and I felt, again, I went through all these emotions where I felt terrible, maybe that I did overstep my bounds. And then I also felt like very disappointed and disinterested in doing this anymore. And overall, my experience was, it was a really good experience to a degree going through all of that, and it was also awful. But at the same time, I was like, I never want to have anything to do with this kind of situation again. I never want to have anything to do with these people again. So I stopped. And these were people that I didn't know, and some of them I'm still friends with on Facebook, but I basically have totally distanced myself. Some of them I'm not friends with Facebook, and I could care less about them. And the reason I kind of got more into that space around it was I just felt like these people were saying one thing and doing another, and that they were not really supportive, and they weren't really supportive or friends. So I just was like, you know what? I can spend my time doing other things. And I started to feel at that point, well, maybe this whole social media thing is just complete and utter bullshit. But again, it was a very complex situation. So I backed off, and now I don't tackle those things at all anymore. I don't do it. But again, this is another situation kind of based off of that, or kind of a part of it. So it's a complex thing, but moving forward, I don't feel comfortable tagging people now, because apparently people will get upset by it because of being notified when there are events. So I don't know. It is what it is. But I wanted to do this video where I'm just talking about these kinds of situations, and this particular situation that just kind of came up. So thanks again. Share your thoughts. I love to hear people's feedback on this thing, because I feel like it's really complicated. So this is Jason Dean, and we will see you next time. Peace.